So we are back with another tier list video. So I thought, now that the Rings of Power came out 2 weeks ago, I think, it's time for me to make a Lord of the Rings tier list. Well, a Middle-earth tier list. One, this really should have come out like last week when it was more relevant, but alas, I finally got around to it. And two, this is the tier list we're going to be using. It is in Portuguese. I think the titles of the books are in Portuguese, but I'm pretty sure I know what all the books are, so I think we'll be fine. And three, these are all books that I have read from Tolkien. There's probably some other Tolkien books that I've read, but this was the only list I found that had all the ones that I have read and didn't include ones that I haven't read. I could have probably made it myself, but I'm lazy, so we're doing it in Portuguese. So, again, as always, these videos are going to be ranked in order of the books relative to themselves, not books in general, so relative to Tolkien's works themselves. Excelente is the top one, and Na puedo ler, I don't speak Portuguese, but if that was right, let me know. That probably means I've not read, so that's just going to be S, A, B, C, D. That's D tier. I didn't want to change it because I thought it'd be funny if it was still in Portuguese. Now, let's get into it. And also, you might see that I am face on because I got a webcam. It's 720p. I probably should have spent a bit more for the 1080. But alas, let's jump right into it. So we're starting off with Beren and Luthien, which I quite like. I think it's a good story. I enjoy it. I think it basically is about the Silmarils. So that's an A tier, isn't it? I'll put it in B tier for now. I think it's good. I just want to see where everything else lies with this. I think it's a good story. It's enjoyable. I love Beren and Luthien together. When you go to Tolkien's grave, if you ever go to Oxford, you see I think on the grave of him and his wife, and I think it says something along the lines of "Here lies Beren and his Luthien," and I'm like, but no, beautiful, wonderful story. I like that it kind of interweaves a lot of the history of Lord of the Rings into it. Well, Middle Earth. I keep saying Lord of the Rings, but of Middle Earth into it. So, yeah. I think that's a good place to start. This is, I think, the poetry of Bilbo Baggins. So it's meant to be the book he's writing about his past travels and his travel to the Grey Havens. I just personally think it's not for me. It's more of like a song and a poem, like interspersed with the narrative. It's more of a C. It's not really my thing. So that's what I'm gonna have to say for it. It's not bad. It's just not my thing. This, I believe, is the Fellowship of the Ring. Again, my Portuguese not great. So remember, S, A, B, C, D. I'm not gonna lie, gang. I'm gonna put it as C for now, but that might change. I love Lord of the Rings as a franchise. I love Lord of the Rings as movies. I love Lord of the Rings games. The Lord of the Rings books, those 3 books in particular, I don't think they're the best. I'm just saying, I like Tolkien, but I think those aren't his best works, but they are the best adaptations we have, which is why everyone loves them. I don't think they're the best. So the next part of the video, I used a different recording software, so I accidentally didn't record in 1080p, so yeah. So we were having a technical issue there. Instead of going straight into Return of the King, I'm going to go into Two Towers. I like Two Towers. I'm going to put it as a high B. I think it deserves to go to high B. I think Two Towers is kind of where the books really get going. I know like the books and the movies don't really align with where they cut off, but I do think Two Towers is where you start being introduced to more interesting concepts and even more interesting characters. You get the likes of Faramir being introduced, which is quite interesting. You get Gollum / Smeagol's kind of evolution as a character as well. So I really quite like that in the books. Return of the King, I think, is an A for me. I think all the stuff they cut from the movies that is actually in the books is really engaging. Like the stuff with the hobbits at the end of the book, I think is a really great, fun time. I think it really shows the character development of a lot of these characters. I feel like the book handles Frodo as a main character a lot better as well. It also ties up some of the other things. Like I think it starts around the end of the Battle of Planor Fields. So that's kind of also why I put this as a high B as well, because I really like that battle, even if when it's described in the book. Again, I definitely feels like the books got better as they went along. They're still not, well, to be honest, this might be revised down actually. So let's move on. The Silmarillion is just long and it's hard. That's a high C. It's super important to actually understanding the history of Middle Earth and Lord of the Rings. I get it, but also, really, really was this necessary? This is a lot. It's again super engaging, really good. This might be revised as well up. Also, Baron on Luthien. Okay, these are my first impressions. This might be a long video. I'm going to be adjusting where everything goes. But yeah, I think that's going to go there for now. Children of Húrin, I think, is an S. This was like my favorite thing I've read of Tolkien. I think it's really deep. It's like the curses and stuff of Húrin and how it affects his lineage and his line is just really great. Yeah, I genuinely, I don't. Tolkien heads, as I will call them, have definitely read this. But people who maybe have only read Lord of the Rings, Children of Húrin is the one I would say people should go and read. That and one of the other ones on this list. Like, the other ones you don't necessarily need to read, but I think Children of Húrin is just a really great book and a really great story that I want people to go and read it. Then we'll go to the Fall of Gondolin. Fall of Gondolin is good as well. I think it is in the same realm as Beren and Luthien. Just super in... Again, I think everything... If you're only interested in the Lord of the Rings, you don't need to read these things. But if you're interested in the Tolkien verse, as I'd like to call it, oh god, I would say read this as well, The Fall of Gondolin. Again, interesting the dynamics in these books that are missing from the Lord of the Rings books. I always obviously, because the Lord of the Rings is where people really are like, okay, I know Tolkien from Lord of the Rings. I always like compare it to the two, and I think the political machinations and things like the Fall of Gondolin and is this the Fall of Numenor? I don't think it's called the Fall of Gondolin. I can't remember now. This is also in Portuguese, and I don't want to Google it right now. But the Fall of Numenor is definitely what it's called. I'm not 100% sure it's called the Fall of Gondolin now. But the Fall of Numenor also kind of goes in that same like middle tier. It's good. Might be a little bit slow. Might be a little bit like, okay, I see where this is going. But I think it goes where it goes. I think the bottom of B is a good place to put the Fall of Gondolin, actually. The Fall of Numenor. I'm now going to be really annoyed because I'm not 100% sure the title of this. But yeah, this is going to go towards the bottom of B. Like, cool story. I've not watched any of the Rings of Power yet, but I'm pretty sure this is what the season 2 of Rings of Power is going to be about. So I'm not going to talk about this, like the story of this, but I'm pretty sure this is what season 2 of Rings of Power is going to be about. The Hobbit, I genuinely think is a banger. I know a lot of people are like The Hobbit is better than Lord of the Rings, and I think it kind of is. I know it's more of a children's book, but I genuinely think it's just a banger of a story. Like, obviously, oh Hobbit, The Hobbit, Portuguese. I know, again, it's difficult because a lot of people, when you're talking about Middle Earth stuff and Tolkien stuff, they will, myself included, I will think, oh, but the movie. And I need to think of, we're not talking about the movie, we're talking about the book here. And so taking the movie out of it, I think it's great. I think it's a good romp, it's a good story. You know, it didn't have to have the Lord of the Rings attached to it for it to be good, which is another like positive in its favor. Fun story, great characters. You know, Thorin is a great character. I mean, the Battle of Five Armies maybe is a little bit undercooked in the book. It's kind of like, and they all appeared, but it's meant to be a children's book, so I kind of get it. Thorin's a great character. Bilbo is likable. Gandalf is everyone is likable in this book, to be honest. And you know, the stuff with the troll, it's always the stuff with the trolls, so I'm like, okay, this is great, because even the trolls are funny to me now at the time when Tolkien was writing this, like nearly 100, or if so, 100 years ago. So, you know, kudos. The Tales of Tom Bombadil is a bloody D. Or now Baudelaire, that definitely wasn't Portuguese. That's definitely the bottom of the tier for me. I just Tom Bombadil is like my least favorite part of the Fellowship of the Ring. It is just long and boring, and I'm pretty sure the Tale of Tom Bombadil is also like that. I know that in this book there is another story with it, which was quite good, and I can't remember. I think it's to do with the Green Dragon, not the as in the actual dragon, not the pub. I just the character of Tom Bombadil is just so off-putting for me because he is just boring in my eyes, which, you know, might be a bit rude of me to say, but there's Tale of Tom Bombadil and Tom Bombadil in the Fellowship of the Ring. It's kind of just like you for me. It's just a downer for me. I think that's kind of a good place to start, where we're going to start looking at rearranging these. So we also take into consideration where they're ranked within their tier. So we're going to stick with Children of Húrin on top. I think that is my number one squeeze when it comes to Tolkien. The Hobbit second, I don't mind. So this is an S tier. A tier, Fellowship of the Ring, not Fellowship of the Ring, Return of the King. Can another one go up there? I think I'm going to... It's funny because I put Two Towers ahead of it. I'm going to put Beren and Luthien up here. I just like it's like the romance, but also all of the things that happen around them here, and all of the like shit they get into because of the Silmarils. That I think will go here in an A tier, Beren and Luthien. And also, it might be biased, but the whole story of Tolkien and his wife having Beren and Luthien on their graves does like just bump it up for me emotionally. So that might be cheating, but I'm gonna have to do it. This has got to be called The Fall of Gondolin. This is really annoying me. This is called The Fall of Numenor. Maybe they used Fall again for this title. I don't know. Two Towers going there is good as well. Although, maybe it should go up a bit. Because I like the character of Faramir. I'm pretty sure and the book does end in a slightly later position than it ends with the movie, and I know obviously I'm trying to avoid thinking about the movies, but it's hard to do that when I've watched them so many bloody times, and trying to compare, remember where everything ends and starts. I think a high B is good, because it's like almost an A. Then let's call it The Fall of Gondolin. That's going there. I think I'd swap these two. I think the stuff with the Numenor's a little bit more engaging, and I don't want to go too much into the story because Rings of Power, I'm pretty sure, is going to cover this in Season 2. That's fine where it is. The Silmarillion is just long, and it's a book where you need to have a notepad next to you and write down everything that's going on, but it is super engaging. Like, it's really interesting, important stuff if you really want to get into the world of Tolkien. So, you know what, I think a C is too harsh. A low B, I think, is where I would put it, because of the importance it plays in actually having an understanding of all of this. Like, you can't have any of this without this. Let's be honest. I think it's the poems and the songs of Bilbo. That's fine. It's not for me, but it's not bad. So it's a high C. Fellowship of the Ring, again. There's good. You know what? It's not. This might be a harsh placement for it. I genuinely think the Tom Bombadil stuff has maybe like put it here. To be honest, that might be a big reason why it's there. But this might be a little bit harsh. I'll be honest. And then Tom Bombadil and D. Again, I think it's pretty harsh, but also like it's not. The Hobbit is a children's book and it's a banger, and Tom Bombadil, I think, also was written, from what I recall from reading it, I read this a long time ago, to be honest. And the rest of these I've gone back and read since reading them for the first time, but this I haven't. This was not a banger, even though it was a kid's book as well. Or at least it felt like a kid's book when I was reading it. So That is my Middle Earth tier list. Lord of the Rings, not Lord of the Rings, but Middle Earth, Rings of Power, Tolkien, whatever you want to call it, tier list, whatever's going to be best for SEO when I post this video. That's the tier list. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think of my tier list and how it would compare to you. Again, Children of Húrin, I genuinely think if you... Well, I guess if you're going to read Children of Húrin, you might as well read the Silmarillion. You might as well read what I'm calling the Fall of Gondolin. Then you might as well read the Fall of Númenor. Then you might as well read Beren and Luthien. So I guess you might as well read all of these. Maybe not the Tom Bombadil one. But no, I digress. Like, the Children of Húrin, I really like. Yeah. Damn, I don't know, it's just good. This guy is a good writer. And I know there was other tier lists that I could have ranked on Tier List Maker, which had more books, but those are like, a lot of them were the history of Middle Earth, which is by Christopher Tolkien, where he's kind of given commentary on Lord of the, specifically the Lord of the Rings books for some of them, but generally Middle Earth in general, and some of that is more talking about the writing itself as well as additional chapters and unwritten manuscripts. And I'll be honest, guys, I can't just read Tolkien all the time. I wish I could, but yeah, that's why I found this tier list. I'm like, okay, it's in Portuguese. The titles are all in Portuguese, but let's go for it because it's got all the books that I've read. I don't think I've read any others apart from these. I've read like Unfinished Tales, which is more of a compilation of some of these other books anyway, put together with some additional info as well, I suppose. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below your thoughts on my tier list and where you would tier list any of these things, any of these Lord of the Rings books. I keep saying Lord of the Rings, any of these Middle Earth books. It feels wrong to say Lord of the Rings, but I default to it because of how much I loved the movies and the books growing up. Where would you rank this Middle Earth media, books, if you will? Let me know in the comments down below. And yeah, I hope you read a great book today and make that book Children of Húrin.